The temperature in the cold storage unit dropped to freezing, but the heat of the moment burned hotter than any fire. Vaughn Ketteridge held his phone up like a weapon, the live stream counter ticking upward as he cornered the man in the gray jumpsuit. Stellan Fairbairn didn't shrink back against the pallets of temperature-sensitive vaccines. He stood his ground with a quiet, infuriating dignity that only made Vaughn's smile sharper. This wasn't just a reprimand for a spill or a lost manifest. This was a calculated execution of character broadcast to the entire logistics hub. In the shadows of the heavy plastic curtains, Kira Holliswood watched with her hand pressed over her mouth, her heart hammering against her ribs as she clutched a clipboard she wasn't supposed to have. She knew what Vaughn was doing was wrong, a twisted game of power to hide his own incompetence, but stepping forward meant losing the only paycheck keeping her family afloat. Yet, as the camera light blinded Stellan, something shifted in his eyes, not fear, but a patient, terrifying resolve. He wasn't looking at Vaughn, he was looking at the security camera above them, knowing that while lies travel fast, the truth has a way of arriving in a sealed results packet. Don't look away, because the silence is about to break. The condensation on the steel walls was thick and cold. Stellan Fairbairn swept the concrete floor with steady hands. He ignored the biting chill of the refrigeration unit. His breath formed small white clouds in the dim light. He knew the inventory layout better than the managers. Every box of medicine was a life he was protecting. But tonight, the silence of the warehouse felt like a trap. Vaughn Ketteridge stepped through the heavy plastic strip curtains. His Italian leather shoes clicked loudly on the hard floor. He held his smartphone high, the recording light already blinking. A cruel smirk played on his lips as he approached. He wanted an audience for what he was about to do. The CFO didn't care about logistics or safety protocols. He cared about dominance and the thrill of breaking someone. "Here we are with the source of our problems," Vaughn announced. He shoved the camera lens uncomfortably close to Stellan's face. Stellan paused his sweeping but did not lower his eyes. "The reason our efficiency metrics are down," Vaughn lied smoothly. A simple sweeper who thinks he belongs in a lab. The viewers on the livestream began to comment and laugh. Stellan tightened his grip on the broom handle but stayed silent. Kira Holliswood froze behind a stack of shipping crates nearby. She had come to double-check a sensor reading on aisle 4. Seeing Vaughn there made her stomach twist in sharp knots. She knew Stellan was the most diligent worker they had. He often fixed the mistakes the executives made on paperwork. But Vaughn was painting a narrative of incompetence and laziness. Kira wanted to scream, but fear choked the words down. "Tell the investors why you ruined the shipment," Vaughn demanded. He prodded Stellan's chest with a manicured finger, hard. "Admit that you unplugged the cooling unit to charge your phone." It was a lie so absurd it almost made Stellan laugh. "I did no such thing, sir," Stellan said, voice calm. "The logs will show the unit malfunctioned 3 days ago." Vaughn's smile faltered for a second before turning icy. "Are you calling the CFO of Ketteridge Biologics a liar?" Vaughn raised his voice, performing for the digital audience. "This is exactly the insubordination that destroys great companies." He turned the camera back to himself, feigning deep disappointment. "We try to give these people jobs, and this is the thanks." Stellan noticed a blinking light on the wall behind Vaughn. The backup temperature sensors were recording everything, silently watching. Vaughn leaned in close, whispering away from the microphone. "I'm going to make you an example, trash," he hissed. "By tomorrow, you won't just be fired, you'll be unemployable." He ended the stream and shoved past Stellan, laughing. Stellan stood alone in the cold, the threat hanging heavy. Kira waited until Vaughn was gone before stepping into the light. She looked at Stellan, and he asked, "Did you see it?" The morning shift began with the usual chaotic rhythm. Forklifts beeped and pallets slammed onto the loading docks. Stellan moved through the noise like a ghost in gray. He spotted a label misprinted on a crate of insulin. Without a word, he flagged it and corrected the routing code. If he hadn't, the shipment would have spoiled in transit. Nobody saw him save the company $50,000. Kira watched him from her glass-walled office on the mezzanine. She saw the small acts of competence he hid carefully. Most sweepers didn't understand complex supply chain logistics codes. Stellan read them like he had written the system himself. She wondered why a man that smart was pushing a broom. There was a mystery in his posture, a hidden history. She felt a pull to understand him, to protect him. Vaughn swept through the warehouse floor with an entourage. He ignored the workers, looking only at the high ceiling. "We need to cut costs in the labor sector," he announced. His assistant scribbled notes, nodding at his every word. He pointed at Stellan, who was cleaning a spill nearby. "Too much dead weight dragging down our profit margins," Vaughn sneered. Stellan didn't flinch, continuing to work with precise movements. Kira felt a surge of anger rise in her chest. She knew Vaughn was spending company money on private jets. Yet he blamed the floor workers for the budget issues. She checked the quality logs on her computer screen again. Stellan's employee ID was never linked to errors, only fixes. But in the corporate system, he was just a number. A number that Vaughn was eager to erase permanently. Later, in the break room, Stellan sat alone with a book. It wasn't a magazine, but a dense text on bioethics. Kira walked in, pretending to get coffee, her hands shaking. "You fixed the insulin routing," she whispered, not looking. Stellan looked up, his blue eyes sharp and assessing. "It was going to Arizona instead of Alaska," he replied softly. "Someone has to keep the medicine safe," he added simply. "Vaughn is looking for a scapegoat," Kira warned him quietly. "The audit is coming up and numbers don't add up." Stellan closed his book, placing it gently on the table. "The numbers never lie, only the people who present them." "Be careful, Stellan, he has eyes everywhere," she said. "I'm not the one who needs to be worried," he answered. His confidence scared her more than his silence did. The intercom crackled to life, echoing through the warehouse. "Stellan Fairbairn to the executive office immediately," the voice boomed. The room went silent as other workers looked at him. Stellan stood up, brushing a speck of dust from his knee. He looked at Kira with a faint, reassuring smile. "Do you believe in justice, Kira?" he asked her. Before she could answer, he walked out the door. The boardroom was glass and chrome, smelling of expensive coffee. Vaughn sat at the head of the table, legs crossed. He didn't offer Stellan a seat, leaving him standing. "We have a compliance tour tomorrow," Vaughn said without preamble. "Investors are coming to see a flawless, high-tech operation." He picked up a tablet, scrolling through data with disdain. "I need a guarantee that the floor will be spotless." Stellan stood with his hands clasped behind his back. "The floor is always clean, sir," he replied evenly. "I'm not talking about dust," Vaughn snapped, eyes narrowing. "I'm talking about the optics of low-value personnel. Stay out of sight. Keep the other rats invisible. If I see one uniform, you're all out on the street." It was a threat delivered with the casualness of ordering lunch. "The workers ensure the safety of the product," Stellan countered. "Hiding them compromises the protocols you claim to uphold." Vaughn slammed his hand on the table, rattling the cups. "Do not lecture me on protocols, you janitor," he shouted. "You exist because I allow it. Remember your place." "My place is ensuring the integrity of this facility," Stellan said. Vaughn laughed, a dry, humorless bark of a sound. "You have a lot of pride for a minimum wage nobody." Vaughn stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. "Maybe I should remind you how easily you can break. Tomorrow, during the tour, you will serve the refreshments. I want the investors to see who serves them. It will be a good lesson in humility for you." Stellan's jaw tightened, but he nodded once, slowly. Kira was waiting by the elevator when Stellan came down. "What did he say?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "He wants a show," Stellan said, his expression unreadable. He wants to humiliate the staff to feel powerful. We can't let him jeopardize the inspection, Kira said anxiously. We won't, Stellan promised, stepping into the elevator. But we might have to let him destroy himself. The next morning, the warehouse was buzzing with nervous energy. Men in suits arrived in black cars, looking critical. Vaughn greeted them with a wide, fake smile, shaking hands. He led them toward the cold storage sector, talking loudly. Stellan stood by a cart of water bottles, head bowed. Vaughn paused, gesturing to Stellan with a dismissive wave. Even our help is trained to be invisible, Vaughn bragged. But as the group moved past, an alarm began to beep. It was the temperature alert on the main freezer unit. Vaughn's smile vanished as the red light started flashing. He turned to Stellan, his eyes wide with sudden malice. What did you do? Vaughn hissed, loud enough for investors. Nothing, Stellan said, but the trap was already sprung. You sabotage my company? Vaughn shouted. Security. The alarm wailed, a piercing sound that halted all conversation. The investors looked at each other, confused and concerned. Vaughn seized the moment, turning the disaster into a weapon. This man was near the control panel. He accused wildly. He pointed a shaking finger at Stellan, acting the victim. He's disgruntled, trying to ruin our funding round. Stellan looked at the panel. The seal was clearly broken. I haven't touched the controls, Stellan stated, voice firm. The logs will prove who accessed the panel last. He's lying. Vaughn shouted, drowning out Stellan's logic. Poor workers ruin science with their incompetence and spite. He looked at the investors, pleading for their sympathy. This is the struggle of managing unskilled labor, he sighed. The investors nodded slowly, accepting the narrative Vaughn spun. Kira watched from the doorway, her clipboard clutched tight. She knew Stellan had been with the water cart all morning. She saw the maintenance chief, Vaughn's cousin, near the panel earlier. But speaking up now, in front of the money, was dangerous. Vaughn's eyes darted to her, a silent warning to freeze. She lowered her head, shame burning hot on her cheeks. Stellan saw her hesitation and gave a nearly imperceptible nod. Get him out of here, Vaughn ordered the security guards. We will deal with this criminal negligence in a hearing. 2 guards grabbed Stellan by the arms, dragging him back. Check the sensor logs. Stellan shouted over his shoulder. The time stamps don't lie, Vaughn. Silence him. Vaughn roared, losing his composure for a second. The heavy doors swung shut, cutting off Stellan's voice. Vaughn turned back to the investors, smoothing his suit jacket. My apologies, gentlemen. A minor personnel issue. We have redundancy systems. The product is perfectly safe. He smiled, but sweat beaded on his forehead. He knew the temperature excursion was real and dangerous. But he had his scapegoat, and that was what mattered. He had to make the lie become the truth quickly. In the detention room, Stellan sat calmly on a metal chair. He wasn't panicked, he was calculating the timeline. He knew Vaughn would try to delete the digital footprint. But Stellan knew the system architecture better than the IT department. There was a mirror server that Vaughn didn't know about. He just needed someone on the outside to access it. He closed his eyes and thought of Kira. Kira sat at her desk, staring at the flashing error screen. The temperature data for the last hour was already vanishing. Someone with admin access was wiping the records. He's deleting it, she whispered to the empty room. If she did nothing, Stellan would be fired and sued. If she acted, she would be the next target. But she remembered Stellan's question, do you believe in justice? The hearing room was sterile, white walls and fluorescent lights. A camera was set up on a tripod, recording everything. Stellan stood in the center, stripped of his work badge. Vaughn sat behind a long table, flanked by HR and legal. This is a formal review of the incident, Vaughn stated. For the record, the employee caused a critical failure. He wanted this humiliation permanently on file. I request the sensor logs be shown, Stellan said clearly. Denied, Vaughn said, shuffling papers. Irrelevant data. We have eyewitness testimony of your proximity to the panel. Who is the witness? Stellan asked, eyes locking on Vaughn. Me, Vaughn smiled, cruel and satisfied. And my word is final. The word of a liar is worth nothing, Stellan replied. The HR director gasped. Vaughn's face turned a violent red. You insolent gutter rat, Vaughn spat, leaning over the table. You are here to beg for mercy, not to accuse me. I am here to ensure the truth is recorded, Stellan said. And the truth is you staged a failure to impress investors. You risked millions in inventory for a piece of theater. Vaughn laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the room. And who will believe a sweeper over a CFO? Kira was summoned into the room, looking pale and small. Miss Holliswood, Vaughn said, his voice suddenly sickly sweet. You were on the floor. You saw him near the panel. It wasn't a question, it was a command to corroborate. Kira looked at Stellan, standing tall despite the abuse. She looked at Vaughn, the man holding her career hostage. I saw him near the area, she stammered weakly. Vaughn smirked, leaning back in his expensive chair. There. Even your friend admits it. Stellan didn't look betrayed, he looked sorrowful for her. Is that all you saw, Kira? Stellan asked gently. Don't answer him, Vaughn snapped. She has said enough. This hearing finds you guilty of gross negligence. We will proceed with termination and civil litigation. You are making a mistake, Stellan said, voice dropping low. This company was built on integrity, not fear. The company was built on profit. Vaughn shouted back. And I am the guardian of that profit, not you. Get out of my sight. Security will escort you. Stellan turned to leave, but he stopped at the door. The audit isn't over, Vaughn, he said. As Stellan was led away, Vaughn turned off the camera. Delete the first part, he told the HR director. Keep only the confession and the witness statement. Kira stood there, feeling sick to her stomach. She had told a half-truth that felt like a whole lie. Vaughn walked past her, patting her shoulder condescendingly. Smart girl. You know which side the bread is buttered. The warehouse felt empty without Stellan's quiet presence. Kira worked mechanically, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. She felt the weight of her coworkers' stares on her back. They knew she had been in the hearing room. They didn't know what she said, but they sensed the betrayal. Vaughn called her into his office an hour later. He slid a typed document across his mahogany desk. Sign this, he ordered, not looking up from his phone. It was a formal affidavit blaming Stellan for the excursion. It went further, claiming Stellan had a history of sabotage. This isn't true, Kira said, her hands trembling. He never sabotaged anything. He fixes things. He fixes nothing. Vaughn slammed his phone down. He is a liability. And if you don't sign, so are you. I can't sign a lie, Kira whispered, terrified but firm. Then you can join him in the unemployment line, Vaughn threatened. And they'll make sure you get a reference that ruins you. Think about your rent, Kira. Your sick mother. He knew her personal file, he was weaponizing her life. I need time, she said, backing away from the desk. You have until the board meeting, Vaughn replied coldly. Kira ran to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. She looked at herself in the mirror, hating the fear. She remembered Stellan's kindness, the way he helped everyone. She couldn't let him be destroyed for Vaughn's ego. She needed to find proof that Vaughn tampered with the sensors. But she was locked out of the main server room. She was being isolated, cut off from the data. During lunch, no one sat with her at the table. She was a pariah, the woman who sided with the boss. She ate her sandwich in silence, mind racing. She needed to get into the physical log archives. The digital ones were wiped, but the paper backups existed. They were kept in the basement, in the old records room. But she needed a key card with executive clearance. She saw Vaughn's jacket hanging on the back of his chair. He was in the break room, boasting to the managers. It was a crazy risk, something Stellan would never ask. But Stellan wasn't here to stop her. She walked past the office, heart thundering in her ears. The door was ajar. The jacket was right there. She slipped inside, moving like a shadow. She felt the plastic card in his pocket. She grabbed it and turned to leave, adrenaline spiking. "Hey!" A voice called out from the hallway. Kira froze, hiding the card in her sleeve. It was just a courier delivering a package. She exhaled, nodding to him, and walked away fast. She had the key. Now she needed the truth. Stellan sat in his small apartment, staring at his phone. His access to the company portal had been revoked. He was officially cut off from the systems he built mentally. He called the IT desk, asking for the sensor logs. "Request denied," the technician said, voice nervous. "Vaughn put a block on your file, Stellan." "I'm sorry. I have a right to defend myself," Stellan argued calmly. "You're replaceable trash, Stellan," Vaughn's voice cut in. He had been monitoring the call line. "Stop harassing my employees or I'll call the police." "You're afraid of what the data shows," Stellan said. "I'm afraid of nothing," Vaughn laughed, sounding brittle. "I have the board in my pocket and you have nothing." The line went dead with a sharp click. Stellan put the phone down, his face hardening. He reached under his bed and pulled out a lockbox. Inside was an old, faded photograph of the warehouse. And a letter, yellowed with age, signed by the founder. "Not yet," he whispered to himself. "We need the audit." He needed the corruption to be fully exposed. If he revealed his hand too early, Vaughn would cover it up. Back at the warehouse, Kira made her move. She used the stolen badge to open the basement door. The air was stale, smelling of dust and old paper. Rows of filing cabinets stretched into the darkness. She found the cabinet for the current quarter. Her fingers flew through the folders, searching. She found the manual entry log for the cooling unit. There it was, in black ink, signed by the maintenance chief. Unit 4 shutdown for manual override authorized by V.K. The time stamp matched the alarm perfectly. Vaughn had ordered the shutdown to test the alarm system. But he forgot to turn it back on before the tour. It wasn't sabotage, it was executive incompetence. She pulled the page out, folding it carefully. She heard heavy footsteps on the stairs above. Someone was coming down to the archives. She scrambled behind a stack of old boxes. Vaughn's voice drifted down, angry and sharp. "Burn the logs for this month. All of them." "But sir, that's illegal," the maintenance chief said. "Do it, or you're fired too," Vaughn commanded. Kira held her breath, clutching the paper to her chest. If they found her now, it was over. She heard the sound of a lighter flicking open. The smell of smoke began to drift through the room. They were destroying the evidence right now. She had the only surviving copy in her hand. She had to get out before the fire alarm triggered. The smoke alarm shrieked, sending the building into chaos. Workers streamed out of the warehouse into the parking lot. Kira blended into the crowd, the paper burning a hole in her pocket. Vaughn stood by the exit, watching faces closely. He looked for guilt, for anyone who might know. He didn't see Kira slip the paper into her shoe. "False alarm!" he shouted. "Back to work. Now!" But the disruption had shaken him deeply. He pulled out his phone and called the chairman. "We need to move the board meeting up," Vaughn insisted. "Tonight. We need to terminate the problem element immediately. Before the audit finishes? The chairman asked, skeptical. To save the audit, Vaughn lied. He's a threat. The meeting was set for 8:00 p.m. A surprise session. Stellan received a notification on his personal email. A termination notice, effective immediately, pending vote. He knew Vaughn was accelerating the timeline. He put on his best suit, not a sweeper's uniform. It was a charcoal gray suit, tailored and expensive. He looked in the mirror. The sweeper was gone. The heir was about to step into the light. Kira found Stellan waiting by the bus stop near the gate. I have it, she whispered, handing him the folded paper. He burned the rest. This is the only proof. Stellan took the paper, his eyes softening. You risked everything for this, he said. You were right, she replied. I believe in justice. Then tonight, you will see it, Stellan promised. He's called a surprise board meeting, Kira warned. He wants to fire you before anyone asks questions. He's walking into a trap, Stellan said enigmatically. Kira, I need you to do one more thing. Anything, she said, surprising herself. Go to the lab. Find the sample with the red seal. The red seal? But that's executive DNA testing. Just ensure the chain of custody is unbroken, he said. Vaughn might try to swap the samples. Whose DNA is it? She asked, confusion growing. It's the future of the company, Stellan said. He checked his watch. I have to go prepare. Prepare for what? She called after him. For the end of Vaughn Ketteridge, he answered. Kira watched him walk away, looking like a stranger. He wasn't the humble sweeper anymore. He walked with the stride of a man who owned the road. She shivered, despite the heat of the afternoon. She turned back to the warehouse, towards the lab. She had a mission. And she was terrified. The lab was quiet, the hum of freezers the only sound. Kira swiped her own badge. It didn't work on the secure door. She used Vaughn's stolen badge again. The light turned green. She slipped inside, her heart pounding against her ribs. The red seal rack was in the back, strictly confidential. She saw a vial labeled Subject 001 Founder's Line. And another labeled Subject 002V, Ketteridge. She checked the digital log on the nearby terminal. There was a chain of custody break logged 10 minutes ago. Someone had accessed the samples without a witness. Vaughn's badge ID was on the entry log. He had been here before the fire alarm. He was trying to tamper with a paternity or heritage test. But why? What did DNA have to do with a sweeper? Suddenly, the door swooshed open behind her. Kira ducked under a lab bench, holding her breath. Vaughn walked in, talking on his phone. I switched the labels, he said, voice low. The test will show I'm the biological match, not him. No one knows he's even in the city. He's just a sweeper. A nobody. Kira's mind raced. Stellan. A biological match? Was Stellan related to the founder of the company? The pieces started to click together. The hidden intelligence. The specific knowledge. The humility. Stellan wasn't just a worker, he was the rightful heir. And Vaughn was trying to steal his birthright. She had to secure the evidence before Vaughn destroyed it. Vaughn left the room, confident in his sabotage. Kira crawled out, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She grabbed the physical log book, the paper trail. She took photos of the tampered vials with her phone. She saw a sealed packet on the counter, results pending. She grabbed the packet and shoved it into her shirt. She had the DNA results. The real ones? Or the fakes? She needed to hide this evidence immediately. She couldn't keep it on her person, he would search her. She ran to the shipping bay, to the reject bin. She hid the packet inside a hollowed-out scanner gun. She marked the gun with a small piece of blue tape. It was a hiding place only a floor worker would know. Then she heard the security alarm trigger. "Security breach in the lab," the automated voice said. Vaughn had realized someone was in there. Kira sprinted back to the warehouse floor. She grabbed a broom and started sweeping, head down. Security guards burst through the doors, guns drawn. "Nobody moves." The head guard shouted. Vaughn stormed in behind them, face purple with rage. "Search everyone!" Vaughn screamed. Someone was in the lab. He pointed at the workers, his eyes wild. "I want the thief found now. They stole confidential property." The guards began patting down the terrified staff. Stellan was nowhere to be seen. He was already gone. Vaughn marched up to Kira, grabbing her arm. "You," he snarled. "Where were you 5 minutes ago?" "I was here," Kira lied, voice trembling but steady. "Ask anyone. I've been sweeping the aisle." The workers looked at her. They knew she was lying. But they hated Vaughn more than they feared him. "She was here," an old packer said. "I saw her." Vaughn released her with a shove. "Useless idiots." He turned to the security chief. "Detain Stellan." "He's not on the premises, sir," the chief reported. "Then go to his apartment. Drag him here. I want him in the boardroom tonight. I want him to see his life burn down." Vaughn pulled out his phone and started filming again. "We are under attack by internal saboteurs," he narrated. "But Ketteridge Biologics will prevail." The cameras were rolling, capturing the fear in the room. Vaughn was turning the warehouse into a reality show. He wanted the public to see him as the strong leader. He didn't care that he was terrorizing his own people. Kira watched him, hatred burning cold in her gut. She had the evidence hidden in the scanner gun. But she needed to get it to the boardroom. "All managers to the boardroom," Vaughn announced. "And bring the quality clerk. I have questions for her." He pointed at Kira. She was trapped. If she brought the gun, they would find it. If she left it, the trash collection might take it. She had to make a choice. She signaled to the old packer, pointing at the gun with her eyes. The packer nodded imperceptibly. He understood. It was the silent language of the warehouse floor. The invisible workers were organizing. Vaughn thought he was the master of the universe. But he was outnumbered by the people he despised. Kira walked toward the elevator, head high. The war was moving to the top floor. The elevator ride was silent and suffocating. Vaughn stared at his reflection in the polished doors. Kira stood in the corner, clutching her empty clipboard. "You know where he is, don't you?" Vaughn asked softly. "I don't know what you mean," Kira replied. "Don't play dumb. You're the sweeper's little pet." The doors opened to the executive floor. A coworker from the lab, Jason, was waiting there. He looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Mr. Ketteridge," Jason said. "I found something." He held up a plastic bag. Inside was Vaughn's badge. "I found this in Kira's desk drawer." Kira felt the blood drain from her face. Jason avoided her eyes. He had sold her out. Vaughn took the badge, his smile returning. Well. Grand larceny and corporate espionage." He turned to Kira, dangling the badge. "You stole my access card to tamper with the records. That's a felony, Kira. Prison time. Unless you tell me exactly what Stellan is planning." I. Kira stammered, cornered. "Jason gets a promotion," Vaughn announced loudly. "You get a cell. Make your choice." "There is no plan," Kira said, tears stinging. "He's just a man you treated like dirt." "Wrong answer," Vaughn sighed. "Security, hold her here. She watches the meeting from the punishment chair." He pointed to a chair in the corner of the boardroom. Kira was shoved into the seat, a guard standing over her. She watched the board members file in. They were old, wealthy, and impatient. "Why are we here, Vaughn?" the chairman asked. "To save the company from a hostile takeover," Vaughn said. "Initiated by a low-level employee. He was setting the stage for a massacre." Jason stood by the door, looking guilty but relieved. He had saved his own skin by sacrificing hers. Kira looked at the clock. 7:55 p.m. Where was Stellan? Had the guards found him? Was he in a cell? She felt the scanner gun hiding place was safe. But without Stellan, the evidence was useless. 8:00 p.m. The double doors of the boardroom opened. Stellan Fairbairn walked in. He wasn't in handcuffs. He wasn't being dragged. He walked in flanked by 2 private attorneys. And a courier wearing a uniform from a genetic lab. The courier carried a sealed red packet. The room went dead silent. "Who let him in?" Vaughn shouted, standing up. "I did," the chairman said, looking curious. "Mr. Fairbairn claims to have relevant information. He's a fired sweeper." Vaughn protested. "Actually," Stellan spoke, his voice filling the room. "I am the largest shareholder in this trust." Vaughn froze. The board members whispered. The courier stepped forward, placing the packet on the table. "Delivery for the board of directors," the courier said. "Chain of custody verified. Seals intact." It was the DNA test results ordered by the founder. The test Vaughn thought he had tampered with. Vaughn stared at the packet like it was a bomb. "This is a farce," Vaughn stammered. "Remove it. Open it," Stellan commanded. "You have no authority." Vaughn yelled. "The packet," Stellan pointed, "activates the authority. It is a biological identity verification. The founder's will states that his heir controls the board. And that heir has been working on the floor for a year." Vaughn's face went white. He looked at Kira. Kira realized Stellan had played them all. He had been testing the company from the bottom up. He wanted to see how the leadership treated the weak. And Vaughn had failed every single test. The packet on the table was the final judgment. Vaughn lunged for the packet, desperate. "Don't touch it." The corporate counsel barked. Vaughn stopped, his hand hovering over the red seal. "It's fake," he whispered. "He forged it." "We will see," the chairman said, reaching for the envelope. "If this matches the founder's DNA, you are finished, Vaughn. And if it doesn't, Stellan goes to jail." The tension in the room was suffocating. Stellan looked calm. Vaughn looked like a cornered rat. The corporate counsel picked up the silver letter opener. The sound of the paper tearing was incredibly loud. Vaughn was sweating profusely, loosening his tie. "This is irregular," he muttered. "Highly irregular." "Silence," the chairman ordered. The counsel pulled out a single sheet of paper. He adjusted his glasses and began to read. Test subject Stellan Fairbairn. Reference subject founder Elias Ketteridge. Probability of paternity 99. 99, the room erupted in gasps and murmurs. Stellan remained stone-faced, watching Vaughn. "It's a lie." Vaughn screamed. "He switched the samples. I saw him in the lab. He tampered with it." "Actually," Kira spoke up from the corner. "You were the one in the lab, Vaughn." Everyone turned to look at the quality clerk. "She's lying. She's his accomplice." Vaughn shouted. "I have the logs," Vaughn lied. "I have the proof." "Show us," the chairman said. "Show us the logs." Vaughn fumbled with his phone, hands shaking. I deleted them to protect security," Vaughn said. "How convenient," Stellan said dryly. "The trust clause is now active," the council stated. Mr. Fairbairn has immediate voting veto power. I move to terminate Vaughn Ketteridge, Stellan said. On grounds of fraud, sabotage, and abuse. Seconded, the chairman said without hesitation. You can't do this to me. Vaughn shrieked. I built this company's profits. I am necessary. You built profits on cruelty, Stellan said. And you sacrificed safety for your ego. But wait, Vaughn smiled, a manic, desperate look. The test is invalid without the chain of custody. And the physical log was burned. I burned it. He clamped his hand over his mouth. He had confessed. The board members looked at him with disgust. You burned the logs? The chairman asked slowly. I meant. Vaughn stammered. He's right, Stellan said. We need the physical proof. Otherwise, he can claim the test was planted. All eyes turned to Stellan. He didn't have the logs. The burden of proof is on the accuser, Vaughn rallied. He saw a loophole. A way to survive. If you can't prove the chain of custody, the test is void. And if the test is void, I am still CFO. And I fire all of you. He laughed, bordering on hysteria. Stellan looked at Kira. He knew he didn't have the paper. Kira stood up, the guard stepping back. The log isn't the only proof, Kira said. I have the physical evidence of the tamper. Where? Vaughn sneered. I searched you. It's not on me, she said. It's in the warehouse. In a scanner gun. Bring it up, the chairman ordered security. Vaughn's face fell. He knew exactly what she meant. While they waited, Stellan spoke to the board. I worked the floor to understand the soul of this company. I saw good people broken by bad management. I saw corners cut that risked lives. Vaughn represents everything my father hated. Tonight, we clean the house. Starting at the top. The board members nodded, ashamed of their ignorance. The security guard returned, holding the scanner gun. He placed it on the table. Kira stepped forward and opened the handle. She pulled out the small, crumpled packet she had saved. It wasn't the DNA result, it was the sample label. The label Vaughn had peeled off the vial. It had his fingerprints all over the adhesive. Run the prints, Kira said. If Vaughn tampered with the sample, his prints are there. Vaughn collapsed into his chair, defeated. The science he claimed to love had turned against him. I did it for the stock price, he whispered. I did it for you. He looked at the board. We don't want your kind of help, the chairman said. This confirms the DNA test integrity, the council said. Stellan Fairbairn is the controlling owner. And Vaughn Ketteridge is terminated immediately. Security, remove him from the building. 2 guards hauled Vaughn up by his expensive suit. He kicked and screamed, dragged out like the trash he mocked. The door slammed shut, leaving a blessed silence. The atmosphere in the boardroom shifted instantly. The air felt lighter, the tension breaking. Stellan walked over to Kira. He didn't hug her, he extended his hand. Thank you, Director Holliswood, he said. Director? Kira blinked, confused. Director of Quality Assurance, Stellan corrected. You risked your safety for the truth, he told the board. That is the leadership we need. The chairman nodded in agreement. The motion is carried, the council said. Kira looked at her hands, still stained with warehouse dust. She wasn't a clerk anymore. She was a leader. And Stellan wasn't a sweeper. He was the owner. What about the other workers? Stellan asked. The ones Vaughn fired. The ones he humiliated. Rehire them, the chairman said quickly. With back pay. And a formal apology. And the sensor logs? Stellan asked. Fully audited. New protocols, the council promised. Justice was flowing like water through the room. Stellan walked to the head of the table. He didn't sit in Vaughn's chair. He pushed it aside and pulled up a simple metal chair. "We are a logistics company," he said. "We serve the people who need these medicines. From now on, the floor workers are the priority. Any executive who forgets that will answer to me." Kira smiled, tears finally spilling over. She watched Stellan command the room with quiet grace. He hadn't changed. He was just finally seen. The live stream Vaughn started was still running on a tablet. The comments were exploding with support for Stellan. The world had watched the bully fall. And they watched the sweeper rise. The next morning, the warehouse was different. The fear was gone, replaced by a hum of purpose. Stellan walked the floor, not in a suit, but in workwear. He wasn't sweeping, but he was inspecting. He greeted every worker by name. Kira stood on the mezzanine, wearing her new badge. She watched him, a feeling of warmth in her chest. Vaughn was all over the news, facing charges. His career was over, his reputation incinerated. The audit had passed with flying colors. The truth had saved the company. Stellan walked up the stairs to join Kira. They looked out over the bustling facility. "We did it," she said softly. "We did," Stellan agreed. "But the work is just starting." He handed her a sealed packet. "What's this?" she asked. "Your contract," he smiled. "Read the trust clause." She opened it. It gave the workers a share of the profits. "It's their company too," Stellan said. "You're a good man, Stellan," Kira said. "I'm just a sweeper who got lucky," he winked. They stood together, shoulder to shoulder. Not as boss and employee, but as partners in change. The cold storage was cold, but the future was bright. They had cleaned up the mess. And the warehouse had never been cleaner. Vaughn Ketteridge learned the hard way that you can't judge a man by the broom he holds, especially when that man owns the floor you're standing on. Justice wasn't just served, it was delivered with a tracking number and a signature required. Stellan didn't just reclaim his birthright, he restored dignity to every worker who had been treated like a line item. Kira found her voice and her power, proving that loyalty to the truth pays more than loyalty to a tyrant. They aren't a fairy tale couple, but a team forged in fire and ice, ready to protect what matters. If you enjoyed watching the arrogant fall and the humble rise, smash that like button and share this story. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next time the underdog bites back.